Hey there everyone, it has been a long time since I've done an English YouTube channel update. I hope that I will in the future be a little bit more regular with that. You say, you've said that a lot. Well, it is true, I've said that a lot. Hopefully this year will be different. So we have a lot to talk about, so I'm going to try to make this video as informative and as short as possible. So without any further ado, let's head outside, and on the way out I will tell you some of the biggest news that we have and some news around the farm that's not quite so big. So here we go. I just stepped outside and I can barely see. If I'm just like squinting at the camera, that's because the sun is so bright on this just absolutely spectacularly beautiful February day. The first big thing that happened since our last video, I think that was the one about the potatoes bringing in the harvest, is that we have had a slew of weddings. First of all, Alexei and Zhenya. Alexei has been working with us for about 2 years here on the farm, off and on, and is now our full-time animal man, barn guy, tractor guy, so forth and so on. And Zhenya, who has been my secretary, helping out with the YouTube channel, the Russian YouTube channel mainly, for the last year or so. They just got married this October. So absolutely spectacular. As far as time goes, I know I put out that video about the potatoes, I think that was in November, but it was actually taken in mid-October. So end of October, they got married. Woo! Second huge event is that my good friend and longest co-worker in the farm projects, Andre, got married to Olya. Andre has been working with us since 2013. He came and did a stint up north when we still lived in Takuchet on the little farm up there. And then in 2016, he also joined the team to come down here to do the Next Step project here in Altai. He has been with us for quite a few years, like 7 years now. And Olya, she showed up as a volunteer in 2017, right after I got sick with encephalitis, and then has been with us for 3 years since then. It is absolutely exciting that now we have gone from my family and a group of singles to 3 fully functioning families just in the span of the last 3 or 4 months. As far as community goes, and actually building community, families are essential. They are the building blocks around which community can be built. And so that is just wonderful that we now have 3 families here on the farm. So that, of course, is the biggest update, the greatest, biggest news. Hoorah! We're so happy for Alexei and Zhenya and Olya and Andre. Absolutely. Praise the Lord. We also have a few other updates that I wanted to show here about the farm, more farmery type things. So without further ado, let's go look at those. I don't know if you remember from when I did the farm tour, I talked about the banya, the Russian bathhouse. When we originally built it, we built it with a second sort of loft story. We've just this summer put in this stairway here, deck, porch, stairway, not quite done, but it's at least framed in there. Need to put in the railing. And Andre is finishing out the apartment above the banya for him and Olya's daughter Sonia to live in. Olya and Sonia were living for, like I said, 2.5 years in one of these yurts. First they were living in that yurt, and then when we moved to the big house, they moved to the big yurt, the one that's right down there, that one. And now Andre is finishing out the second story of the banya bathhouse, and that will be their apartment. So that is a big improvement. So this place is about 25 square meters. It's about 260, something like that, square feet. So it's pretty small. So this second story of the banya is will be heated from this little tiny wood stove, just to give you an idea. I mean, it's really pretty small. It's hooked into the stovepipe from downstairs. So there's a single stovepipe that goes up, and then it's hooked in, so that this pipe actually, when the banya is going, it's going downstairs right now. It's pretty warm right here. It'll actually help heat the upstairs a little bit when the banya is going, and then on non-banya days, non-bathhouse days, the little stove will be enough to heat it up. This little stove is really interesting because it's got a built-in heat exchanger inside of it. Russians know how to do stoves, and Russians know how to do hydronic heating. So even this little tiny, just like you should put into a hunter's cabin, it's got a boiler inside with a hydronic heat exchange, and you put cold water in, hot water out, a little tiny circulation pump, and you can get hot water. Andres built his little heating system in here basically for hot water for the kitchen, and it's gravity fed, gravity circulated. So it's an open ended system where you just add water manually. So it's a pretty simple system, but will give you gravity fed hot water for the kitchen, and you could even hook in a couple of radiators for distributing the heat around the house into the system pretty easily. As I said, Russians know how to do hot water and heat. So, all right, now we're off again. One of the biggest additions to infrastructure that we did this year was the Ivan Chai tea house that's behind me, the tea house dryer. So I want to show you that real quick. So right now I'm inside the Ivan Chai Ivan's tea house. One of the first videos that I did here on the Next Step project here in Altai on the farm back several years ago was about us making Ivan Chai Ivan's tea by hand. And it seems like there's a big demand for that product in Russia at the moment. So we decided to put in a tea drying facility. And I know this video should have come out in the summer when we actually do Ivan Chai production, but I thought better late than never. So in the summer there's a lot to do without taking videos, so this gives you an idea of what the tea house looks like. First of all, we have tea in the summer growing all up along the wood line. So all along our property, Ivan Chai, Ivan's tea, or something called fireweed in America, grows up all along there. I won't go over again all the benefits of fireweed. You can look at my original video. It'll be linked in the end. So the tea house itself is a pretty simple structure, just a basic roof. Half of it is, as you can see, semi-contained. You got a little polycarbonate on that side, a little polycarbonate on the far side, just to stop the flow through air so that you're working there. It's not, if there happens to be wind, it's not just blowing, but it's open on the front side to allow air to move, but not to blow. And then half of it is the actual tea drying facility. The actual tea dryer is made up of these 4 sections. So there's the middle section right here, and then the 2 sections on either side of the middle section that I'm pointing to right there. And then at the far end, there's the far section. The middle section right there is the heater section. The 2 sections on the side of that are the dryer sections, and the far section is what we call the fermentation chamber. So we bring the tea leaf in here, and we have a workstation set up here in the summer that has a food processor, meat grinder thing set up here, and we use that to granulate the tea leaf. What that does is that it breaks down the cellular structure of the leaf and releases the moisture that is contained inside the leaf. So you get this kind of mush of granulated tea stuff. And that then is taken and put from the granulator into what we call the fermentation chamber. So basically you have this first section of the tea house that has these big containers here that we can put full of tea. And then we have these lids that you kind of close off access of air to the tea. And what that does is it allows for the fermentation process to happen. And that takes about a day, somewhere around 24, 30 hours, it needs to fermentate. So this particular room is really well insulated. It has heat coming in from the heating chamber, which I'll show you shortly. And this is the middle section, the heating section. Basically, it's very simple. It's just got a little wood burning stove here and a pipe that goes out. And then it's got some circulation pipes that take the hot air from the ceiling. This is insulated. The ceiling is insulated. Takes the hot air from the top of the ceiling, pipes it down to the bottom and around. We also have these big gaps here for natural ventilation and for irradiating heat to go into the tea drying areas. As I said, after about 24 hours to 30 hours, once the tea has been properly fermented, and you can tell because it gets that really fruity sort of almost an alcoholish sort of flavor to it, smell to it, you bring it in and we put it into this one of these sides where we have these really basic racks. A friend of ours gave me a whole bunch of, he had an old sausage producing factory, and he had a bunch of these aluminum frames. I don't know where they were from, but we use these to put the T on, and then we can put a whole stack of them up in here and put actually quite a bit of load. So we have this side, which is a tea drying rack. The hot air again comes in from that side. There's a fan in there that brings out the hot air, and also it comes in naturally, rises up, and then there's a ventilation out the top for the moisture to get out of. And so that's one side, and then the other side is identical to it. Right here we have these thermometers hooked into the system that gives us both temperature and moisture in the air, so we can kind of control it that way. So then after the tea comes out of the drying racks, then it goes to be packaged. Here, even though the system was new to us and we're figuring out all the quirks and kinks of how to run the tea drying house, we still were able to do over 100 kilograms of dried, processed, and packaged tea. That's over 220 pounds. There seems to be plenty of demand in Russia for this product at the moment. I offered Ivan Chai tea on my Russian YouTube channel just this Saturday, and in 3 days our entire year's supply was sold. And in all honesty, if the tea house is the largest piece of infrastructure improvement that we did this summer, fall, then the most significant piece of infrastructure is what we're going to talk about right now. We've made some pretty significant changes to our electrical situation and our alternative energy production. I don't want to share that with you right now. So we're inside in the battery bank station, and what I wanted to show you was my desulfator from Battery Life Savers. No, they are not an advertiser. My YouTube channel is not big enough to advertise anything, and I should have this attached to the panel like right there. I don't yet. I'll get around to that. But this is just a little desulfator, and the idea is that it sits here and takes a certain amount of energy, a small amount, and it sends some impulses on a particular frequency through the battery bank and supposedly desulfates the batteries. When it comes to desulfators, I was pretty skeptical. I know there's a lot of snake oil on the market. In fact, it's almost all snake oil, just straight snake oil all around. But the Battery Life Saver really came highly recommended. I really looked it up on the internet, did quite a bit of research on it. Seems to be like a legit product. And to be honest, my specific gravity measurements after about 2 months of having it on the system have really improved, as well as my general charge, decharge time. It's actually really, really improved. The overall volume of the battery bank has increased, so I guess it does work. When we first found this property, I was so excited about this stream because I was sure that I'd be able to use it for hydroelectric and not have to worry about using generators or solar power. But as it turned out, one of my friends wanted to sell solar panels from China here in Russia, and he offered for me to set up a solar panel array in exchange for advertising hours on my YouTube channel, my Russian YouTube channel. And I thought, hey, well, since I have the solar panels anyway, I might as well, save some money and not install the hydroelectric turbine. And that was a huge mistake. But last fall, I finally bit the bullet and said, no more reliance on just the solar array. It's not enough. We're constantly running the generators. It's not worth it. So we bought a whole bunch of pipes, about 250 meters, I don't know, was that 800 feet, something like that, and set up our penstock, and now we set up our hydroelectric turbine. Ladies and gentlemen, here it is. So there is the pipe coming down from downhill. It's coming through here, 250 meters. Again, that's like 800 feet basically. To get a 10 meter drop, you get a 30 feet, 33, 35 feet drop. Here it comes down, goes through the ball bearing into the turbine, and there it drops out. And it's just fine. We had a Chinese system that I bought from China back in 2017, and it did not work very well. Very low efficiency. We tried to add a couple of new injectors, as you can see right around there, and it didn't really help any. This works really good. We get about 550 to 600 watts, depending on the voltage that's on the battery bank. It's got its own separate controller, and so basically what that gives us is somewhere around 14 kilowatts of power every day. So that is really, really cool. So this is a very good system. Our good friends from Gordon Altais helped us set up this particular turbine. We set up the penstock, so that is wonderful. Can't not mention here, Rebecca did a huge amount of the digging. I was really sick in the fall from some Limes episodes, and she did so much of the digging on that penstock, bearing that penstock. She is an absolute hero. As always, my hero, Rebecca. With 3 families here living on the farm and a constant flow of guests, we use between 18 and 22 kilowatt hours of energy per day. This solar array right behind me here, it gives us about 6 to 10, sometimes 12 kilowatt hours a day, depending on how good the sunshine shines. So the remaining 10 to 14 kilowatt hours a day we have to make up somehow else. And unfortunately, a lot of that was being made up with gasoline generators, which is extremely expensive, loud, noisy, not interesting from all aspects. Now we have the hydroelectric dam, woo! And so that makes up 12 to 14 kilowatts of energy per day, which brings us up to just about balance. We use the generators just a few times a week to top off the battery banks, make sure everything's going good, do some desulfation, that kind of thing. So everything is pretty good. So those are the improvements that we've made recently to the alternative energy picture here on the farm. So that, my friends, is that. Weddings, apartments, tea houses, and hydroelectric power. That's what we've been up to this last 3 or 4 months. Hope it was interesting. Hope it was useful. So if you liked what you saw, please subscribe, share, all the average normal stuff. Also, we have a donation thing there on PayPal. That helps us out. If you want to help us out, that would be great. Thank you so much, and God bless you in your whatever part of this God's good earth that you're on. May God bless you, and have a good day.